Children of the world, parents of the world, this is for you. I'm Rowena.
And I'm April. We are best friends and moms to 5 young athletes and sisters to Olympic champions. We have a mission to inspire our kids
and your kids through the stories of champions.
Who am I? I am a champion. Who am I? I am a champion. Who am I? I am a champion.
Okay, champions, welcome back. Today is your lucky day. We are diving into the legendary life and mind of Steve Caballero, one of the world's best skateboarders for over 40 years. He is honored by Thrasher Magazine as Skater of the Century. He's immortalized in the iconic video game Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and by his Vans shoes, the half cab. He's won world titles in both street and vert skating, set a record for the highest air, 11 feet out, you guys, and then the longest board slide, 40 on a 44-foot handrail. Steve turned pro at 15 and to this day has been doing the impossible and giving people a show. He is a bit of a Renaissance man. He can do it all. He is an artist who shows his work all over the world. He is a musician performing and touring. He rides motocross and mountain bikes and still skates and competes. Most important of all, Steve is the father to Kayla, Caleb, and Clover, and grandpa to Cairo. And he's a dog dad to Oliver the Frenchie. We are going to hop right into the interview.
Actually, how did you get into skating? Do you want to take us back and tell us how that all started?
Well, the way I got into skating was in 1976, BMX, skateboarding. Those were kind of like activities that people were doing besides being in ball sports. I was first into BMX, and that was because a huge inspiration was Evel Knievel, and I would always try to emulate him by jumping garbage cans and building our own little ramps and everything. And I even gave it an attempt to get into BMX racing, but I went to one race, and I've always been kind of really small my whole life, short, and so I figured out really quick that because of my size and having to race against my own age limit, that I would not be able to win because these guys were like 2-3 feet taller than me, So I was pretty wise as a child because I just figured it out. Like, why waste my time, So I picked up a skateboard, and that wasn't about racing. That was just about learning how to balance and try to like explore what you could do on a skateboard. And I just had fun with it with the neighborhood kids. And then I just went to a store that was selling skateboard magazines, and I picked up the Skateboard magazine, and there was 2 of them. There was Skateboard World and Skateboarder magazine. And I would kind of look through the pages and see what they were doing. I saw a lot of people doing freestyle tricks, slalom downhill, and then guys building their own ramps and guys actually skating in backyard pools. So it just looked really interesting to me. And so I built my own ramps at my house, and whatever I had laying around, they were super janky. I studied the magazines. I went to the store and got the soccer pads, knee pads, elbow pads, and I had a hockey helmet because I didn't know what a skateboard helmet was, or even I didn't even know what a skateboard shop was, and I started out in those little old 60s roller derby boards with steel wheels, and then quickly, because that was not very skatable, I went to and it was in the 70s, so there was already boards that were made out of plastic and urethane wheels. So I got one of those and learn how to roll and balance. And one of my first tricks of skateboarding was going down the driveway and just trying to make a right turn, without falling or without the wheels getting loose and the ball bearings falling out, and, trying to put the ball bearings back in, because we didn't have sealed case ball bearings back in the day. So, that was my entry to skateboarding. But what really got me super excited about it was I went to Disneyland one year and saw that they were building a skateboard park right across the street called the Concrete Wave in Anaheim, Southern California. And I asked my dad if the next time we came to Disneyland, could I bring my best friend with me and try out this skateboard park? And we did. We went the next year. And I fell in love with it. You know, first time I ever went down a snake run, and the first time I ever went frontside, because a lot of the pictures in the magazine guys were doing backside kick turns. So all I knew how to do was a kick turn on a ramp. And when I went down a snake run, I had to go backside and then go frontside. And that took me a while to learn how to balance and do that. But that got me hooked, you know, and that was, I want to say that was around 77, you know, and then lo and behold, I have heard this rumor that, you know, 20 miles across town into where Campbell was, they were building a skateboard park called Winchester Skate Park. And I even drove there before it was open and looked behind the fence and was super excited to get my membership. And then I ended up getting my first membership there around 1978.
Wow. The skaters these days don't know how good they have it, do they?
They do not. Everything, there was nothing free. We paid to skate. We paid for equipment. You know, I had parents that were very supportive of the things that I wanted to do, you know, and I'm the youngest out of 5, but they're a lot older than me. So I always kind of felt like I was the only child because I didn't really hang out with my brother and my sister. So I just kind of was a neighborhood kid, and I kind of grew up with my mom. My dad left my mom when I was 11, and I got into skateboarding at age 12. So I kind of just hanging out with my mom, you know, by ourselves, and all the other brothers had moved out. So I always kind of felt like I was the only child, you know, for the longest time, even though I had a big family.
Yeah. Wow. Did your mom drive you to all the skating at that point and wait, or did she just drop you off and leave? What was the
she would sometimes she would drive me to the park and wait there and maybe come back. You know, because you had to pay it was for sessions. So it was like maybe 2-hour sessions, you know, so she would sit there for 2 hours and wait for me to skate and then drive me back home. But as soon as I got sponsored by this other park, which was Campbell Skate Park, which was a mile away from Winchester, I got on the Campbell Skate Park team, and then I actually got free skate, and I was actually able to skate all day there. So I would take the bus from the southeast side of San Jose and skate there all day, and then my mom would pick me up at night. Yeah, but I lived at the skate park. You know, that was my home.
I love it. You know, one of the things that we love about this podcast is letting the upcoming champions really interact and kind of be part of it. So we actually have a question for you from Rowan Black. He is from Utah, and I'm going to play it for you because I think that is going to be even better. But here he is.
What did it take to get so good, Steve Caballero? I want to know, please.
Oh, was that the video that you sent me?
Yeah. What did it take? Rowan, that's actually what we're going to get into in this whole interview.
What does it take to be good at skateboarding?
Yeah, to get so good. Because we hear like you began just like any other kid, just figuring it out yourself. And now 40 years later, you're still skating, still competing.
Yeah. Well, I think each individual takes something different, you know. But for myself, I'm going to speak for myself. It took a lot of passion and love for skateboarding. It took the ability to want to challenge myself. And it took a lot of hard work and practice and overcoming my fears. You know, I knew that once I got better at skateboarding, it was going to get easier. And the easier and more comfortable you feel on a skateboard, the tricks start coming quicker and quicker, and you start to have more confidence in yourself. So I would like to say that confidence plays a huge role in getting good, and having a positive mindset of believing in yourself, and, you know, and having a place to skate, you know, and just doing the best you can with what you have. I was never much of a complainer of what I had to skate. It was more like felt grateful and blessed that I had a skateboard, that I was able to go to a place to skate, and I made the best of my time.
I love it. It's almost like because you didn't have it just given to you, that you really had to work hard to find the places to go, and it made you that much more grateful, and that helped build your belief, which is amazing. I love how you're talking about mindset, actually, because we've heard you talk about how, we believe this, and for all sports. This is actually why we have this podcast, and to begin with, is to kind of help the Groms realize how important mindset is. But we've especially heard you talk about how mindset is such a big part of skating. Can you talk to us about that and explain just like maybe things that have really helped you with your mindset with your career?
Well, like I said, each skateboarder is different, and each skateboarder has their own different wants and needs and what they feel they want to get out of riding a skateboard. For me, I looked up to people in the magazine. I looked up to dreaming about wanting to be in a skateboard magazine, dreaming of becoming a pro skateboarder one day. But I knew that it wasn't going to be just given to me. I knew that I had to work super hard at getting there. So I looked for different avenues to make that happen, by asking my parents to drive me to the skate park all the time, to like looking in the magazine and seeing what was hot, what was cool. So I was very perceptive of what was going on around me. And, I use that to the best ability of like trying to just be wise and not make as least mistakes as I can on my journey. But what I found out about skateboarding is skateboarding doesn't come easy. It's really hard to do. And you fail a lot before you're successful. So the lesson that I learned super young about being a skateboarder is you need to fail to succeed. And I feel like a lot of people are afraid to fail because of what people will think of them, how it makes them feel. But when you have the patience enough to go through all that, the ability to experience this, like overcoming these failures and being successful, it outweighs, the hardships that you go through, So I learned that at a very young age. So I knew that if I did my best, at least my dad would always say, like, just do your best. I'm not looking for you to be perfect or he would always have my back when it came to competition. He supported me in such good ways where he didn't have these high expectations of me, so I didn't have parents kind of on my back being like, you need to do this, you need to do that. They just kind of let me do my own thing. But my dad was always like, are you having fun? Because that's all that matters, enjoy yourself. And, as long as you had fun and you did your best, that's all I care about, So that was a great thing to have on my side because it was less pressure. But once I got sponsored, I knew that if I wanted to keep that sponsorship, that I was going to have to keep doing my best all the time. And I never wanted that to go away. And still to this day, I never want my sponsorships to go away. So that's why I do the best I can at everything that I put my heart and mind to. And I feel that if everyone does the best job they can for whoever they're working for, they're never going to lose their job. They may be even promoted higher. But, I'm not in the corporate world where you got new CEOs coming in and all of a sudden you're like, you lost your job because the CEO brought another person with them. I'm not in that world. So that's a whole nother tension that I'm glad I'm not a part of.
Yeah, here. It's so simple, the message you're sharing, isn't it? Do your best, have fun. But it's crazy how complicated we make it all. So thank you for that. Do you have any stories, and maybe they don't come to mind right now, but where you were just in a period of failing over and over again. You felt like, I feel like every athlete has this plateau. Do you have any stories where you were in that period, it was hard, things weren't working, and maybe you turned it around and got what you were working on, a trick or?
Well, I felt that my whole life, especially in competition, where perfect example, one of the first bowl contests before there was free skate parks around, they had built these wooden bowls. It was kind of like a half pipe, but they had bowled corners. So it was kind of half pipe this way and half pipe this way, the bowl corners. And I remember skating a competition and, trying to skate it the way I wanted to skate it, but I didn't kind of skate it like a bowl. So I was just trying to figure out, I did all these tricks, but why did I not place as well as the other person? So I kind of analyzed the situation. I was like, oh, I need to go around the corners and skate it like a bowl. So that was a big push for me to like relearn the area that I was skating to look, more presentable, and also utilize the bowl the way it should be, So, sometimes it takes, like I said, it takes failing at something to realize, you're going at it the wrong way. You need to go at it this way. So competition has really helped me progress. It's given me the fire to be creative and learn tricks and do things that people dreamed of, and pushing skateboarding to higher levels. There's skateboarders out there that don't like to deal with the pressure of competing because of the fear of failure or not placing well. But that competition is what I grew up on, and that's what helped me be the best skateboarder that I can and give me the motivation to like win a contest. And then the following day I'd go on a trip and have this huge contest like in LA, win the contest, but then immediately the next day I would be at the skateboard park trying to learn a new trick, just to be better, because the one thing I've learned about skateboarding or in any other sport, it's really easy to reach the top, but to stay on the top is one of the most difficult things to do in a professional arena, because you're hungry for it, and as soon as you get to the top, you lose that hunger. And then there's other people that are underneath you want that same spot, and they're working harder than you. And, a lot of people talk about, natural talent, this, natural talent, that. This person works just the same as hard as this person. I don't believe that at all. I'm a total non-believer of natural talent. I believe that everything and everybody that has a skill has put the work and effort into it. And I know my body. I don't know someone else's. I don't really know how much work they put into it. And people don't know how much work I put into what I do. They don't know what's going on in my mind. I could be in the bathroom thinking about my next trick. I could be asleep and then waking up and being like, oh, this is what I want to do today. So whatever your mindset is, whatever you have on your mind, that and the goals that you want to set for yourself, people don't know how much time you think about some stuff, and everyone's different, so I don't believe that someone's more naturally talented than another person. Just some people just have more drive than others, and some people are just lazy.
Yes.
This is everything. And gold. I feel like actually exactly what you just explained, it can be in all aspects of life. And it's not just sports and athletics, but exactly what you're talking about is like staying hungry when you get to the top. It's not easy to do. So I love that you have been able to do that. And maybe actually that's why, you're what, like 56 now and you're still skating. Can you talk to us about what has your secret to your longevity? And because you're such an inspiration to so many.
The secret to my longevity is having a positive mental attitude, for one, and always kind of having the mindset of a 20-year-old, of just always being hungry for it and always being excited to learn new things and push it. The hardest part I've learned about being older is which fear starts to settle in, because the injuries are the same. The injuries feel the same, but they just take longer to heal. So then when you find out that, well, it's not going to heal in 1 or 2 days, it's going to heal in a week or a month, you're a little bit more tentative of like, should I try this? Do I want to be hurt or out for a month? So in my older age, I think about that a lot, but then I have to shut that off if I want to get to that next level, and that's just the skateboarder in me of like just always thinking positive and wanting to get to that next level. And in skateboarding, I've been playing catch up my whole life. After probably 30, relearning older tricks and stuff, and I started out skateboarding in skateboard parks and competitions and bowls and half pipes, and then it went kind of into street skating. So I got really into street skating, and I stopped skating bowls and ramps for a while. And then after a long period of stint with street skating, and at age 35, and like eating it and falling on gnarly handrails, like 10 stair handrails, and trying these double, triple kink handrails and getting super hurt at age 35, it kind of like, I was like, why do I need to keep doing this, man? It's like, I don't need to prove anything anymore. So I stopped pushing myself at that age of doing that, but I had something to prove too, as far as like being able to be relevant in the sport. And I felt like I helped make that mark with street skating. And, and then the interest of bowl skating came back. So I got the pads back on and vert skating, and, I kind of fell back into it. And that's been fun. But like I said, I would love to skate like I was in my 20s, but it's just not, I don't skate as much as I used to. My body's not as limber as it was. Plus, I'm also I have different, things in my life that take time, and, one's family, the other is I'm an artist. The other is I love riding dirt bikes and mountain bikes. So I spend time doing that. I've gotten hurt really badly riding motocross, and that's kind of put a damper on my skateboarding and ability to feel good on a skateboard because of my injuries on there. So
can you actually, I was going to get a little bit gory and ask you what your worst skateboard injury is. But I have heard the story about your motocross injury, and I love actually how you talked through the process of gaining your health back again and pain. Let's tell, I think it's a really important lesson for young kids who are in this sport. Like you said, they're going to feel pain. Let's get into that story on the bike, the motocross bike.
Well, a couple of years ago, I broke my femur riding dirt bikes.
Which, by the way, if I can cut in, yeah. I've heard that breaking a femur is like more painful than childbirth. That's like what a man could compare. Is that right?
Well, what's interesting is, to me, it didn't hurt at all.
Oh.
Yeah. And mine was a spiral fracture, and it wasn't a compound. So it actually didn't come out of my skin. Okay. It was internal. So, I never felt any pain. And maybe it was because I was in shock, or maybe because I have a strong threshold for pain. But it didn't hurt one bit. I was just dazed. And, so that happened, and I was that was like, 2.5 years ago, at age, 54, and I was determined to come back. That was my first surgery. I'd never been under the knife before. So that was the very, very first surgery. I had great surgeons fix my leg up and set it straight. And I was determined to come back strong. And I did. I came back in 4 months. I was back on the dirt bike. I was back to skating. And then 5 months after that, I broke my right ankle riding dirt bikes. And I'm like, really? I can't even go a whole year without getting hurt again. It's like, oh, so here we go, back up. And I'm like, I go to the doctor and they want to do surgery on my ankle. And I opted not to do the surgery and let it heal on its own, which I just, it was during the COVID time as well. And I just didn't want to get opened up again. So I kind of let my ankle heal the way it did. And it probably would have been better off if I did get surgery, because my ankle would feel a lot better than it does now. So maybe, in the future, when I have some time, I'll probably go in and have them clean it up a little bit. And so it's just more flexible. It's not as flexible as I want it to be, which in turn it puts a damper on my skating and how I feel on the board. But like I said, your body's pretty amazing of what it can learn to adapt to. And so those two injuries, but the gnarliest injury I've ever had skateboarding was in 1991. And it was breaking that same right ankle on a vert ramp. But I've always worn my pads, and I've always learned how to fall safely and not take too many chances. And that's why I've been able to sustain a healthy skate career. If you see my daily routine, you'll see that I bail a lot. I don't just go for a lot of tricks, and I don't plan to land something unless it feels perfect or comfortable. And that's probably would be the reason why people say that, hey, you look so smooth when you skate. And it's because that's the way I've learned how to skate, is I don't land things that it's going to look sketchy.
I love it. Actually, let's get into maybe a little bit more technical questions, because we have another question from one of our listeners, Jake Familton from Utah. I'm going to play it for you too, because
California.
Oh, he's from California.
Yeah, sorry. Did I write the wrong thing?
Yeah.
Was that the one from Venice?
Yes, you know him.
Yeah.
Okay, here he is.
He's awesome.
Steve, I have a question for you. What's the key to boardside riding?
Well, the key to board slides is balance and finding that right balance. And I think that's the key to life, is to find balance in everything that you do. Because if you sway to one side, you sway to the other, you end up stopping or catching yourself and not gliding through the trick or gliding through your life smoothly. So it's just really just practicing and finding that right balance point, to go as far as you want on a board slide. I've learned that when you're riding rails on the street, and I've learned that when you're riding bowls. But what has helped me a lot to do long board slides or lip slides is I ride plastic rails on the bottom of my board. So I want it to be as slippery as possible. And I've never wanted it to catch and have this friction of you want it to be slippery. So that's why when people look at my board, they're like, oh, you still use rails like in the 80s? And I've never taken them off, So that's why I've been able to go as far as I can. And like I said, everyone has their own way they choose to skate, and style plays a huge role in skateboarding. And to do a board slide 1 block or to do a board slide 8 blocks looks a lot better, So, if I go 8 blocks, the next day I want to go 9. And if I see a guy go 10, well, I want to go 11.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
that's just the competitiveness in me. And that's what makes skateboarding exciting. And so you can be competitive in a friendly way, and you can be competitive in a way that you inspire others, but then you can be competitive in a way that has a bad attitude and is not friendly, and it's not, people, it's something that people don't want to be around. So it depends on your personality too, of how you use that competitiveness around, and, when you have good friends, you push each other, and, me and Hosoi always push each other all the time. It's like, who's going to make this trick first? First one who makes it's going to get a vanilla latte from Starbucks or something, So in that sense, that's what brings people together as well. It's just supporting and pushing each other to make skateboarding look the best it can.
And you do that. I'm not a skater, but when I watch you skate and Christian Asoy skate, like, so beautiful. I just had to say that.
Thank you.
Sorry, Tony Hawk, but your guys' style is.
But Tony's beautiful in his own way.
Yeah.
And, you know, he's progressed the sport more than anybody that I know of when it comes to vert skateboarding. But on the other side, Tony's personality shines just as much more. And he's like one of the most humblest skateboarders I know. And with all the fame and fortune that he's got, he's really given back to skateboarding immensely. You know, I would say he's the perfect role model that has been picked, or, you know, in our sport, that I would never choose anybody else to be the next Tony Hawk. You know, he's the right person for our sport, and he's done the best job.
So good to hear. Yeah. And you're immortalized, right, in his video games.
Yeah, that was a huge blessing and a great experience in the early 2000s to be asked to be one of the characters in the video game, and that actually helped launch my career into another level, you know, of fame and notoriety in the sport. You know, I would show up at demos and contests and meet these parents of these skateboarder kids saying, like, I know who you are because I see you on our television set every single day when my kid's playing the video game. You know? So it's kind of cool. It really brought a lot of attention to skateboarding all over the world that people wouldn't even know about skateboarding. So, you know, it's been a good thing, you know.
That is so cool. Do you want to tell us the story on how that even came about? Or were you just called one day and like, hey, you're going to be in this video game. Is that okay with you?
Yeah. So, you know, I think the push of the X Games and Tony Hawk being the star of those competitions kind of, it gained the attraction of Activision and Neversoft to design a skateboard game that people could play on their PlayStation on television. And so they got these designers to design this game, Tony Hawk Pro Skateboarder. And when it came out, I bought the game and played it and learned how to, you know, do all the controls and fell in love with it, you know. And then all of a sudden the next year I get a call from not Tony, but the designers of the game. They called and they told me they were huge fans and would I like to be a character in the game? And I was like, of course I would. Like, who wouldn't? That was huge. That was huge. And it was a great opportunity for me and a great opportunity for my sponsors and a great opportunity to some of the bands that I know, because I was able to introduce music to the video games. Like I brought Nolan Collin from Sweden and also brought Body Jar from Australia. And I was also actually able to include one of my faction songs that the band that I played in on the next video game as well. So
it's awesome. Did you have to go into the studio and get all the little hooked up? Like, did you have to do the moves in person or did they just animate you?
No, what happened was on the very first games back in 2000, I think Hawk was the only guy that they put those little balls on that suit. And because if you look at the game, every character kind of looks the same. Like their mannerisms are kind of the same. It's just we're just wearing different clothes. So we didn't go that far, you know, to that extent. But when they re-released the game just a couple of years ago or last year, we actually went in there and got in this like sphere of like all these lights and cameras, and they took photos of our different facial expressions, and so it was more realistic. I brought up 3 sets of clothes where they took a bunch of photos of the clothing, and so that was more extensive because the way the development of video games and how realistic they are, they got a little bit more into capturing our likeness.
How cool. As a kid, when you first were thinking and looking into skateboarding, I'm sure you never in a million years like dreamt that that would be your future, but that's so cool that you have had this amazing career. I love it. You are obviously a champion in our eyes, and I would love for you to kind of tell the audience what does being a champion mean to you?
Being a champion means giving up a lot of things, giving up a lot of time and dedicating it to what your goal or your interest is, and focusing on that 24/7. I wanted that at a very young age. So, age 12. And so at that time I wasn't dating, or I wasn't into women, girls. So that I didn't have that distraction. I wasn't old enough to drink or do drugs, so I didn't have that distraction. I think it's a little bit harder when you get in your teenage years, where you get all these other distractions to keep you from your goals. So starting out younger, I think it's a lot easier to get to that level quicker. But life is all about distractions. There's always going to be something trying to take you away from your goals and your passions. And that's when you have to make the choice what you want to focus on. So I think I think to be a champion, you have to be passionate for one. You have to have a lot of focus. You have to be fearless, and you have to be patient, and my definition of patience is long suffering. You have to be willing to suffer, and a lot of people aren't willing to suffer. So that's why you see a lot of people with lack of patience.
Yeah. So many people want what you have, but aren't willing to do what it takes.
Well, they want it really quickly.
Yeah.
They want it like handed to them, and I know in the reality of life is things don't come as quick as we want them to. And sometimes things come to people that won't come to you, so you have to be willing to be happy for other people's success as well, and not let the jealousy of wanting the same thing that someone else has. I think one of the biggest lessons that I've learned in my life, and I try to share with my kids, is that life's not fair. We weren't born or created on fairness. So once you realize that life's not fair, then you will be more accepting to people having more than you. You'll be okay with it. But there's a lot of families and there's a lot of parents that treat their kids the same when they're each individual. And when you treat everybody the same, you're not being real, because the world doesn't treat you the same. Some people get more than others. And if you think that life's fair, you're going to be very disappointed when you get into the real world.
I'm so happy you shared this, such wisdom for our young crew listening. I've been so impressed with you since I got into skating with my kid. Just watching you, watch how you seem to have this mantle on your shoulders where you just care and you make time for people and you talk to people and you just seem to want to give back. Is that something that you had as a young kid when you first got into sport? Is that something that grew with you?
It's something I needed to learn because I was very shy when I was younger. That's why I didn't really date anybody in school, because I was too scared to ask a woman on a date. So one of my first girlfriends wasn't until I graduated from school, but because I was afraid of getting turned down. I had this fear of what's the word?
Rejection.
Rejection. Yeah. So I had a lot of fear of speaking in front of people. I mean, when I had English class where I had to get up and do a speech, like my lips would be like twitching, and I was just really afraid of what people thought. When at my first interviews in Skateboarder magazine, my answers were really short. I didn't really have much to say. So I was really shy as a child. And I had to overcome that. I had to learn to be more outspoken and learn to just recognize the people around me. And I'll never forget, this happened later on in life and actually helped push me to be a little bit more social. Was I was with my friend Solomon Agah, and we were skating the skate park. And I just noticed, when we got to the skate park, he introduced himself to everybody. And he just made himself known to these people and made them realize that they were there and they were being noticed. Because that's the world. We all want to be noticed in one way. We all want to be recognized. That's why Instagram and Facebook so popular, because you just want to be liked. You want your post to be liked. You want a positive comment, or you wouldn't be on there. Or your page is private. So we crave that. So when you're at a skate park and you're able to break that ice with people, and kind of like trip them out, like, oh my goodness, like this famous person is recognizing me. That's a special feeling, and I saw that and I'm like, you know what, that is so cool. Like, because I would go and just focus on what I'm doing, because I'm so focused on skateboarding, and not pay attention to the people around me, and here I am trying to do the best that I can to inspire people. And then you get comments like, oh, Cab's so stuck up. He didn't even say hi to me, or didn't even look at me, so without even trying to be negative, people will assume that you're a certain way. And I used to get bummed out about that when people would say stuff like that. Like they get the wrong impression, so I do now. I go out of my way to recognize people, and people see that, and it goes a long way. I've heard other skateboarders talk about other skateboarders. Like, I don't like that person. The thing that bugs me the most, this is what bugs me the most, and not a lot of things bug me, but when you know somebody and you say hi to them, and the next time you see them, they act like they don't even know you, and they could probably be going through the same thing too. They probably have a lot of anxiety as well, but I don't know that. I'm not in their mind. But on the outside, you're thinking like, wow, how stuck up that person is, or how how can you act a certain way like me, and then all of a sudden you don't even recognize who I am. It's hurtful.
That's amazing, because it sounds like you've done a lot of work with that. Like, it hasn't come naturally, and not that you meant to, not care about other people, but you were just so focused on what you were doing. It might've come across that way. So to really put the time and effort into that, and realize, well, first of all, realizing that was important, and then put the time and effort into that. It's amazing to see how that transition and how it does come kind of naturally to you now.
Well, what I want to say is your personality outweighs your skill. It's like, when you look at the world, the people that are most remembered are the people that are most kind.
Mm-hmm.
But you could be great at a skill and be, a terrible person, and no one's going to even care about the skill, Mm-hmm. And the one thing that I've learned about this world is the same people that lift you up and put you on a pedestal will push you to the ground and push you away if you do something that they don't approve of. So you got to watch out of how you represent yourself and what you do, because all these great things that you work so hard on to become famous and to be well known can be smashed in a second. Because people are always trying to look for the negative things in people. And that kind of bugs me as well, especially on social media, is like you get people commenting all the time, and they're always just nitpicking and always looking for the most negative thing they can find within your post. And it could be in your post, or it could be what you said. You could have spelt something wrong, so they got to point that out. You know what I mean? So it's like, come on, man. It's just like, what? And then you go to their page, and their page is private.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean? So it's like, there's people out there, they just want to criticize, and be opinionated, but they don't want it back on them, so they're hiding, know. That's the only thing that bugs me about social media. But social media is a great thing. It's a great tool to spread the word, to inspire. But it's not a place to argue and fight and show how clever you are and how smart and how you can outwit somebody. That's not healthy. That's why I left Facebook years ago, because I kind of felt like it was a very toxic place. It was a very negative place, a lot of complaining, a lot of whining. And who wants to be around a person like that?
No one.
Not me.
No. I'm so glad you brought this up in our conversation, because it is so relevant, and you do such a good job on social media. You don't hide away from being who you are. Can you give us and the young ones some just real life tips when a hater comes at you on your page, tries to pull you down, says something? What do you do? Like, what advice would you give?
Well, for one, don't argue with them, because you're never going to win. 2, if they're super rude and disrespectful, it's instant block. There's no question. There's no questions. Erase the comment. There's been times where some guys have said some rude stuff, and I post the there's a link or something, a button there you can post, where once the person wants to post, you can see their comment, but no one else can. So I have to approve it. So there's been times where I wanted to block a person for being rude, but I didn't. So I just restricted them. And then now all the comments afterwards are all positive. So it's almost like I can take them off their restriction, because I have the ability to let the whole world see their comments, or it's just me and them. So sometimes people just need to learn a lesson of, like, you just can't say something rude without having a consequence attached to it. So the main thing is just don't argue with people. It's useless. You can't prove your point to someone that can't hear you.
I love it. I love how you said it straight too. Like, get in the arena. Like, if you're not in the arena, like, you gotta be in the arena, like exactly like you said. You have an amazing, you're putting yourself out there, and then you're getting these comments from people that sometimes I know don't even like have a page. They're literally trolls. So it's not even worth your time. Well, we have so enjoyed this conversation with you. Before we leave, I just have one more question: is what would you give your 10-year-old self advice? Or even, like, I know that things might have changed a lot since, you were 10, up and coming in your industry and now, but somebody that's around 10 years old, what do you feel like is some really good advice that you'd give them if they are like looking at you and they're like, I want to have a career like yours? What would you tell them?
Respect your parents, for one, and just work hard and do the best job, and don't worry about where you're going to be. Things will happen as long as you just focus on your skill, and just be patient. Focus, patience, just be kind to people, and don't be afraid to also question things, ask questions. That's how we learn. Don't be afraid to look ignorant. The word ignorant, a lot of people find it negative, but it's just a word that's used that describes of not knowing something. So there's a lot of things that I'm ignorant to because I don't know, but when you put the time in to study and learn, you're less ignorant towards that subject. And just don't think like you know it all, because there's always someone smarter than you. And there's always going to be someone better than you. So just be happy where you're at.
And Steve, thank you. I think I'm going to play this episode on repeat for my 3 boys in the car. Yes. I think it's going to be one of our most popular episodes. We are so grateful.
They're going to be like, yeah, right, Grandpa. That was back in the day.
No way.
It's a lot different now.
Oh, no way. My son Thor, he's been asking me for weeks, when are you talking to Steve Caballero? When are you talking? All of his crews. You are current as they come. So
Thank you.
So everyone, go find Steve on Instagram. He posts his life. He's such a well-rounded guy. Actually, I had one more question, Steve, before we go. Kind of talking about balance, and there's a lot of our listeners who will have challenges in life, who have things that make them different, who have, things that will come to try to stop them. And I think you don't talk about all the things that have probably come to stop you. We couldn't get into it in this interview, but you were born with scoliosis. Is that right?
That's true.
Is it anything that has affected your skating, or is it just...
The only way that it's affected me is I've had some back injuries over the years. So I've had a lot of chiropractic work done. My neck is not because of this scoliosis. We're not quite sure why one of my glands grew longer than the other, which kind of pulls to one side. So it makes my head kind of tilt to one side. A lot of doctors want to blame it on the accident that my mom was in, where I was premature, but then there's been other doctors saying like it could have happened in birth when they're pulling you out, so you don't know how, I don't know how that happened, but so that in itself kind of just affected the way that I look to people, people are like, sometimes when they first meet me, they'll be like, did you wake up wrong or something? Like, because, and that's the type of person that looks at a person and tries to find a flaw.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing they notice, So when people talk to me like that, I'm like, oh, you're one of those people. You're one of those people that likes to look at someone and find a flaw and talk about it,
So does the neck affect, because skateboarding is so much about, does it affect you turning your head to...
Not in skateboarding,
land?
but in riding my motorcycle, dirt bike, it does. Cause I can turn like pretty far this way. But when I go this way, I'm limited to here. And so it stops. So when I'm on my motorcycle on the street, I have to turn my whole body to look that way.
So it doesn't affect you at all, really, just when you have to look right.
Only when riding a motorcycle.
No big deal.
But I wanted to bring this up because this is exactly the goal. All of us will have things that'll be different or weird, and it's like whether we choose to focus on them or not, and
look at some of the skateboarders that you see coming from Brazil with no legs.
Yes.
And they're doing all these tricks, and it's like they're going above and beyond what's possible, and it's people like that. Like I find the Brazilians are very passionate people. And I learned this when I went to Brazil in 1999 and watched them skate. And I was like, oh my goodness, if these guys come to the US, watch out. Because, and so, there's a lot of passion in there. And once you have passion for something, whatever disability you have goes out the door, and you can prove to people that anything's possible. There's people that don't have any arms and can paint a painting with their feet. You know what I mean? I can't do anything with my toes except wiggle them. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
When there's passion and perseverance, you'll be amazed what you're capable of. So, to end this on a good note is just like, don't put yourself in a box. You're more than you are. Have faith in yourself, and don't just grow up thinking like, this is what I was meant to do. No, that's not true. You're meant to be whatever you put your mind to. I believe, I have faith in God. I'm a Christian. I believe that we are created in His image, and I believe that we're all creators in one way, and we create our own destiny. I believe in choice rather than chance. I believe that other people's choices can ruin our destiny. I believe in free will. I believe that God gave us the ability to choose yes or no to anything that's presented to us. So, we've been given a great life. Some more better than others. And like I said, life's not fair. It's never been fair. So just be happy with what you've got and make the best of it.
Mic
I
drop.
love it. Yeah, just seriously. Just
close it up
there.
Close it up right there.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you so much. Go find him on Instagram at Steve Caballero. Your life will be enriched. It's been our lucky day. Thank you, Steve.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome.